Hey guys, rest in peace to the narrator of Darkest Dungeon. Truly one of the voices of all time. Sucks. You better not have been killed for royalty reasons. Oh my god, Red Hook. You better not. You better not. Now I could tell. I could literally tell. I was literally thinking about this days before he passed away. The guy's kind of old. And I was listening to the Darkest Dungeon 2 narrations. The guy's pretty old, you know, and he's got that sort of gruff voice. A lot of people with that gruff voice, they, like gruff, not like deep, but gruff. They smoke, you know, they smoke cigars, they smoke pipe, and that'll take you out real quick when you're older. When you're older, you'll get lung cancer stage 1, and then it'll just rapidly progress into your death. It sucks, but it happens a lot. You see it a lot in the medical literature. Speaking of which, I do not speak on things that aren't, like, medical. I do not speak on things that aren't proven with a decent amount of paperwork. So one thing though, I have been kind of embarrassing myself with these romanticizing my suffering. I had a great life. I had a lot of fun, and I've known a lot of good people, and I've done a lot of good for people. And I said that I was the best cello player, and then by the time I was like 24, I started to drop off a little bit, and then I should have become the best skateboarder, though that's really infantile. I was really good at building fences. I was really good at working at Walmart. I was really good at working at Steak and Shake. I was really good at working at Hugo's. I was really good at doing basically everything that well, actually, hold on, let me correct I wasn't that good at working at Hugo's. I had to walk all the way, like literally I had to walk across state lines from East Grand Forks to oh wait, no I didn't. Close to the state lines. I had to walk like 1.5 miles to work and then walk back to work. I didn't have a car, and I didn't get a bike till much later. And then I was biking across state lines and going back and forth and going all the way to the peripheries of the occupied Grand Forks area. And, you know, I had done that before walking. It was fun. But what I did become after I stopped practicing cello so much is the best dog dad ever. I was already a pretty good keeper of my animal, but I became a steadfast and stalwart companion who made sure that my dog was very happy in her final days, and she lived to be 14 3/4, and for a Labradoodle, that's pretty long. And for the last 3 days before she passed away, I was laying on the floor with her. I didn't leave her side for much longer than, you know, a couple of minutes. And that's that. When I was singing and humming and keeping a kind consonants and a good attitude the entire time. And then when she finally stopped breathing, then I went outside and pounded dirt, immediately dug the grave. It started raining, and then buried her somewhat unceremoniously. And then I crashed out for like 2 months straight, and then joined Kiwi Farms. You know, it was that was the time. I'd already been around the sectors for a very long time. I was already watching Chris Chan since I was a freshman. I had already been involving myself in null streams for a while before that. But that was the moment when I was just like, it's time. It's time for the new chapter. And then for like 2 years, I became a really good Kiwi farmer, you know? And hopefully, as I build this up, I can become a really good streamer. And not just a streamer, but somebody who releases good videos that are entertaining and not wasting time. Like, hey chat, what's this? Hey chat, what's that? Hey chat, what do you think about this? Type 1 in the chat if you're a stupid dumbass. Type 2 in the chat if you're a dumbass stupid. Like, I'm not about that at all. I've never been about watching those sorts of streams. And the mockeries of them were prevalent in streams that I did watch. So it is what it is, you know. I talked about Manichaeism last time too. Mani means eternity in Persian, but it also means jewel in Sanskrit. So the dualism, you know what I'm saying? Just something to think about. So I hope everyone's having a good one. I don't got a lot to say today, so I think I'm going to talk about time that I got sent to jail on false charges. And I'll have my dad on stream to explain some of these false charges and how they manifested here soon. I already advertised that back like 30 streams ago. But I got sent to jail on false charges, a whole bunch of felonies that didn't end up coming to any convictions, which the Kiwi Farms lied about. Only a couple of individuals, though. Most of the website is full of people who care about facts, and so it did not take off to a vast majority of the website. Dumb enough, the leader, no, actually did pick it up. He, like, I can literally ask him, hey man, what's the evidence that you had of this? And he'll have no idea. He'll have no idea where it was ever printed, where it ever came from. He'll have no fucking idea. And that's not to say about everything, because there is some physical evidence that there was at least charges filed. But some of the things that he said about me on his stream had zero evidence at all, except for one person saying hearsay with no physical evidence backing it up. That's the thing that really gets my goat about it all, is like the guy is legitimately way dumber than I thought he was. And it is what it is, man. You know, you can pull up out of that. You can pull up out of that. But at the moment, it's just like, bro, you are a retard. Get right, man. All right. So, first things first, get hauled off. Go into a place called the Bubble. The Bubble is an interesting place. It's a terrible place. It's a place where the international laws are being violated, as is very much the case in Zionist Florida and Zionist Texas. They just torture people, and they do not discriminate when it comes to torturing people, as long as they're not of the class of people you're not supposed to touch unless you get lawyers on your side, and then they'll touch them extra hard. Yeah. I doubt you'll ever find a single Zionist in any of the black sites, in any of the concentration camps. You won't. But in the Bubble, they keep the lights on you 24/7, and that's the main bad part. But they also allow people to sleep on the floor, packed together in this pizza slice of a room around a panopticon in the center tower. And there's all sorts of rooms, and I didn't see in those rooms. Because I didn't have my glasses with me the entire time. And so what they give them back to you after you leave the Bubble, and then you can see again, but you can't have them in the Bubble. So I became friends with a Catholic veteran. He had a bunch of bullet wounds, and one time the guards passed him over for his medicine, and he was in a lot of pain. He's just like, oh, forget it, man. And I was like, please, man. I was like, I had my eyes closed. I was just, pleading with the guards to get this man his medicine because he has bullet wounds. He's got bullet wounds, man. There's also this one guy, he's standing up all the time. He's like, stop the madness. And then he tells some crazy story. He was always making stuff up. He was fun. And I gave him a lot of my food. He was a little pudgy, but he was like there for a while. Apparently he lived there. He apparently lived in the Bubble. He was there in the Bubble all the time. And God only knows why you would be in the Bubble all the time. And then there was this guy by the back. And people said he was speaking in parables. But like the only time me and him had a face-to-face, heart-to-heart, he started just crying and crying and crying. And like I can't even remember what he was saying to me because I just saw nothing but sorrow and pain pooling out of this poor man. He was very skinny, covered in tattoos. And other people were like, yeah, man, that guy speaks in parables. He apparently lived in the Bubble too. Our Bubble became one of the nicer parts of the Bubble, so he moved in. Apparently they treat him pretty nice, but he suffers. He's suffering pretty hard. When I moved out of that, we moved out to general population. I moved out to general population. I didn't come with anybody. And immediately, as soon as I walk in, immediately people started making fun of me. People started busting my balls. And literally taking my shit to my cell. And what turns out is I ended up getting celled up with the pod boss. And they were testing my metal because they knew where I was going. And this guy was... First, I thought he was fucking insane. But then I found out he's one of the highest T individuals I've ever met. But he also is incredibly intelligent. He's incredibly kind. And I never saw him hurt anybody without a reason. So, like, it's not like he was a brute or anything. He was just fucking enormous with this giant ram tattoo on his back and shit. But he was super nice, and he was kind, and he helped people. And that was my celly. And he really put me through the ringer there at the beginning because he saw my charges, and in a little while he figured out, yeah, it's pretty much bullshit, which happens a lot. People in jail are very kind, they're very nice. You think that if somebody gets people in the system, they think that if somebody gets charged with like pedophilia, right, and you throw them in, they'll just get immediately torn to shreds. But people will actually call up people on the outside and figure out, are these charges legit, or are these charges just there because you pissed off somebody in the system, right? And that doesn't mean that the system can't like stick you in a cell with a booty bandit and have him take your junies. Like, they can do that if they want to, but at the same time, people in jail are way nicer, way more intelligent, way more capable than you would ever guess. And these people were very intelligent, and one of them was kind of guy from over by where I lived. He was an amazing artist, and he would like melt down the coatings on Skittles and M&Ms and shit, and like make these beautiful paintings. And one time I just saw the guards walk in and just rip that shit out and confiscate it. They probably fucking sold that shit. That shit was beautiful. It was like this gnarled old tree with a face on it and all this psychedelic stuff in the background. It was gorgeous. And it was made with, like, you know, the most bare bones of tools. You'll see ingenuity beyond your wildest imagination in jail. It's crazy. And the cooking was fantastic. My fucking stomach was touching my spine. And, like, you know, I didn't complain much. I didn't ask for much. So eventually they just fed me. And they never asked for anything back. It was wild. It was wild. One time I had one friend group, and then I had these guys as my friends. And one guy on the one of my friend group, he started to like crowd in on the other friend, and they like cut me out. I'm not sure how they managed to do that, because I was just kind of focused on like keeping a good attitude and shit. But one time the guy just straight up insulted me, and I went back into my room, and I was just like, the big guy, he walks in, he's just like, "What's the matter, little guy?" And I'm just like, "Oh, nothing. My friend Cowboy, he just, you know, he's being a dick." And all right, bet. Whap! His entire eye is red. His face is fucking red. And the guy ended up getting bounced out of the pod. And I was just like, okay, I guess I'm the pod boss now. So I go around, and I'm with the real pod boss. He's my bro. He moved into our cell after he found out I was chill. And that was the coolest cell, you know. We had, you know, chill old guy, and then big homeboy, and then me. And it was very fun. It was a very, very nice pod, and we were like, you know, we were having a good time, like, yeah, yo. Out the grate late at night, like talking to people and shit, cracking jokes all the time. What? Okay. Just cracking tons of little jokes and doing voices and singing songs. And that's where I first heard Kevin Gates. Is Big Man, he spat Kevin Gates, IDGAF, in a dark room, all blacked out, ain't never sat in no Bentley. He was a fan of Kevin Gates, but that's just back when Kevin Gates was still more real. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the closer that Kevin Gates got to Hollywood, the faker he got. You know, it's just what it is, you know. But yeah, it was fun. And after Big Man left, I became a lot of the regulatory issue, and I would go around on making sure everybody was okay, and we'd make sure that the peace was kept and that nobody was stealing anything, and it was real good vibes. Then, come to find out, inside of the jail, the state could not find any evidence for any of the charges that they placed on me. So they picked up one lower charge that's completely separate from the 4 other charges, which is simple battery from placing my hand on my father. Just placing my hand on my father and leaving a slight red mark on his torso. And I got bounced out to the tents. And the tents are where they work your ass real hard. And they keep anybody who's there on lower charges in that work camp if they're not dangerous and stuff like that, and they use them as slave labor to make money for the sheriff who makes millions of dollars. It's really fucking evil how our policing works and how our jail system works as legal slavery. It's really fucking evil. Like, in America, that should never be the case. But in the Confederate mindset, you know, that never died, right? So it's real bad here in the South. If you're up north and you're just like, what do you mean? They just do trustee work, right? No, they work straight up slave work all over the place. And like, I heard horror stories about people doing fucking swamp jobs around snakes and crocodiles and shit. It's pretty bad. But yeah, after that, I'm just hanging out. Pretty good worker in the kitchen. I'm pretty, like, I'll get into the back of the areas, as I said, like in Steak and Shake. I'll get back underneath shit. I'll clean shit out. People have been kind of shoving into the back for a long time, get things spot and span, make sure there's no mold in the area so that people's lungs are good. Like, it's all good, man. Like, I'm a good worker. But it was nice to be able to work for some extra food, you know what I'm saying? But that was a while ago. That was 7/20/2017. And the recent time I went into jail for throwing piss all over a annoying-ass biker who was going up and down my neighborhood and making a bunch of noise, which he's not doing anymore. Thank you if you're watching this. What was it? What was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? It was about the time that I went to jail, this recent time. And, shoot. Yeah, just living out in the tents is boring as hell. Oh yeah, I got some commissary. And the first time I got my commissary, I like made up this big ass burrito that I learned how to make back in the old, you know, last time I went in. I made this big ass burrito, chopped it up in 12 pieces and distributed it out. Like it was a communion. It was pretty nice. People ate good that night. Yeah, it's boring as hell out in the tents because it's just people trying to kill time in between working, right? But I also saw this, there was a guy who was like a legitimate, like, little person. Very, very short. Very, very kind. Very, very charismatic. He actually helped me out one time. And, you know, I really like that guy. I think about that guy too. But it was the last little person I saw. In the jail. Fucking stuck in jail. What in the hell? Anyways. That's my jail stories. One time, though, back in 2017, they put me on the, or I volunteered too, and then they put me on a bunk, a boat. This is the mobile bunks that you can move into the floor of a cell to put 3 people in a room, which they are forced to do because my jail just rounds people up and keeps them as long as possible. And sailed me down the stairs, and I almost hit my friend Leo. He like had to juke out of the way. Yeah. Whee! That was fun. It's good times. Good times. Anyways, got me thinking. Every time you see X Life, like Salt Life or Boat Life, you can be assured that the owner is very simple. And they have a hyperfixation, and it's worn as a badge. It's entirely a factor of how narrow the breadth of their scope is. And that's okay when you're young. But as an adult, you should not be saying shit like hashtag dog life, hashtag coffee life, hashtag soy milk life, hashtag pickleball life, hashtag welfare life, hashtag gooner life. You really shouldn't be saying shit like that, man. It's fucking simplistic and stupid, and like your hyperfixation is showing, bro. How about, you know, getting off the chicken tendies? Anyways, get something more serious, easily dated news segment time. Netanyahu's face during Trump's Gaza speech was contorting pretty hard. He was like gripping that podium pretty hard as Trump was honest about the fact that if you just moved the Gazans back into Gaza, and the Palestinians back into Gaza, they would just be killed again, like they have been for the last 100 years. They would just be completely and utterly murked, like they have been since before the existence of Israel. Seriously, that's the truth, and that's not something that any of our politicians would say. DeSantis would never say anything like that. Greg Abbott would never say anything like that. Biden, Kamala, never say anything like that. They would say, we need to ensure humanitarian aid, and then they would just ensure the fact that, like, Gaza, which is the world's, and I've said this before, Gaza is the world's largest open-air prison, and it's the biggest weapons testing facility, and they just test chemical weapons, regular weapons, sound weapons, all sorts of horrible shit like they do on the people in Guantanamo Bay in a larger scale. It's like a giant Unit 731. That's what Gaza's been. And I, like, straight up, Trump is a nicer, kinder, better person than Biden. Straight up. Straight up. Biden is so fucking evil. And it just goes to show, like, he's one of those, like, severe anti-black racists, you know what I'm saying? And whether you're an anti-black racist or you're an anti-white racist, you're literally falling for a fake fucking term that doesn't actually exist. Black and white don't exist historically. They're terms made up by North American statecraft. They don't exist. So if you're dumb enough to fall for it, you're dumb enough to fall for all sorts of other things and get yourself possessed to high hell. And to low hell. That's exactly where Biden's at. He's going to some of the deepest layers of hell with the worst betrayers and the worst murderers and the worst, like, Tamerlane style atrocities. Good job, buddy. Good job. Yeah, you're a Catholic, all right. That's the funny thing about the Novus Ordo neo-Catholics is, like, yet I say neo-Nazis, neo-Catholics, you know, pagans and shit like that. It's all a tool of anthroposophy, theosophy. They broke apart the natural culture and they reconstructed it in artificial ways, and it's just a human trophy, really. And hopefully the Catholic Church gets his shit together. But, like, Francis, unlike what the leftists say, Francis is not your friend. Francis is not a humanitarian. Francis oversees the shuffling around of pedophile priests. He oversees massive amounts of dark money filtering through the Vatican Bank, which the Bank of St. Peter has been around for a very long time, but it got turned into the Vatican Bank, Institution of Swiss Services. It got turned into the Vatican Bank, an Institution of Swiss Services, under Pius XII, you see. And that's an unfortunate thing. So, yeah. Let Trump cook. Let's see how that ends up. This fucking Netanyahu looks like such a goblin, though. It might be like a long-term Talmudic strategy to breed the most mentally ill people possible. But, like, people suffer when they're mentally ill like that. People suffer. They suffer. And you can see the twisting and the contorting and the smirking and the rictus grin on Netanyahu's face. It's not a place that I would want to be. I would never want to be him. Just be completely a goblin, completely utterly twisted up in this web taught by your lies. It would suck, man. Trump definitely beats DeSantis. Deadly boring, insipid sycophant that would desperately try to cloak what's happening in the Middle East as humanitarian and the right thing, and not an atrocity meted on 2 million people for little to no reason. And Trump is seemingly going to build them some houses with some of the money that we've been wasting on CIA Ponzi schemes and CIA and USAID. So that's cool. Also, with the whole Jewish DEI thing that they're rolling out, well, you know, the silver lining is that makes creeps like DeSantis and Abbott less special, and it'll make them less popular because they just rolled out that smaller program across the board, but they're not rolling out the International Holocaust Museum shit. So all you have now in Texas and Florida is censorship. You don't have anything that actually you can show on paper will make your country any better. It's just censorship over my feelings. So, you know, good luck to the Jews getting the DEI jobs. Hopefully you're as intelligent as you advertise. Doge memes are back in full force. Apparently they're the patron memes of MAGA, which is kind of funny because, you know, Elon knew this and he probably took the name Doge to Trump. But a Doge is also the serene leader of Venice. And I talked about Venice as the Venetia as a predecessor to Phoenicia. And Aquileia was it was named after a direction of a wind. Silly little ancient things, but Aquileia was the Phoenician port in Venice, around Grozny, which is sort of Austrian, sort of Slovenian, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, speaking of, the Elon stuff is a little concerning, but they're essentially tilling up the old system, you know what I'm saying? And the old system is full of these nasty weeds and all this invasive shit, and, you know, you gotta get down and dirty in order to get some work done. I just worry because, like, the whole way that he's rolled out management of X is not a good sign. It's just not. It's very sloppy. And at least he's using seemingly Americans to do his work, right? He's not bringing in a whole bunch of H-1B visas to manage the treasury. The old system straight up disappeared all the gold in Fort Knox. Fort Knox is empty. There's no gold in there. So I don't know what people are really worried about, their fiat getting stolen or what, but yeah, it's a system built on sand. So stay tuned. She wow on my Doge till I go retarded. She HG on my wells till my man go invisible. You know, true crime culture ruined multiple generations of women and inspired men to get female attention by being psychopathic murderers. It could just be psychopathic murderer propaganda coming out of Hollywood, you know what I'm saying? Pumped out of London, pumped out of LA, pumped out of Amsterdam, pumped out of Tel Aviv. Could be. Could be. My dad had a dream last night where he was hanging out with a little boy at a movie theater, and they watched a bunch of classic cinema together, till the usher came in and warned him about a ghost that was going around the mall where they were at the cinema. And the ghost was a blonde child with a dirty face. And he looked over at the kid, and the kid was a blonde child with a dirty face. However, I know my dad. And when you know somebody, you can very easily interpret their dreams. That was my dad's inner child. And my dad's inner child is now palling around with him again. He's getting peace again after a very long time of having society in prison and dispel. His inner child is just fantasy. Oh, you're only getting older and then you'll die and then there'll be nothing. That's a fantasy made by people who want to inject nihilism into the general population to make them more moldable and malleable to their whims. And also a coping mechanism people with the death drive tell themselves in order to push back the consequences of their actions, which are lapping at their consciousness from the unconscious that's starting to bleed in more and more as they get older. And nobody will live forever. Nobody will live forever. Disney wanted to live forever, and we were much more capable then. Back then, during Disney's time, we were much more capable in like the 40s and 50s before we went through this gigantic orgy of waste and draining. And no amount of touching the moon and fucking with the moon, no amount of touching Mars is going to put us back to where we were when all of our citizens cared and we had like hundreds of millions of people in America that were willing to march towards a better future all together in all parts of society, you know, with a smile on their face. We had one of the best nationalisms of all the nationalisms to exist. And I think that it was strengthened immensely by the fact that it was a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-religion nationalism. So it was in the world of nationalism, globalism is a necessity. You have to think globally in order to maintain the borders of your nation, which isn't just a culture. It isn't just a province of which has its own culture. It is an entire conglomeration of everything that you can put together in one particular bag. And a rotten apple spoils the bunch, so that's why people always hate on California, but California is the long-term consequence of America maximizing everything and paving over its beauty and transporting a ton of water to make these ornamental eucalyptus gardens. Eucalyptus, by the way, that creates flammable chemicals and drops them into the ground that bioaccumulate and then catches everything on fire. Look up the California Eucalyptus Project. It's been 100 years in the making. And guess what? Israel, that also burns down all the time. Tons of eucalyptus they planted there. Tons of eucalyptus. So good luck, guys. I mean, they're probably going to end up flooding into our country after depopulating it and stuff. Maybe the real America was the friends we made along the way. Anyways, y'all, I hope you have a good and hope you enjoyed my stories. Take care.